Welcome to the Pull Bag. Join us as we dig out our latest comics and discuss them with a rotating panel of the GCRN crew. So sit back and enjoy this week's Pull Bag.
Oh yes, but think of the fun.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have traveled 65 years into the future here on the Pull Bag. This is episode 99. I have been waiting 3 years to do this podcast episode specifically, because as my co-host, who I will announce in a moment, knows, and most everyone knows that interacts with me online, I have a very unhealthy obsession with collating numbers to certain dates and days and years and specific in-jokes that usually only I get. And episode 99 of the Pull Bag, we are going beyond. Batman Beyond, that is, because in 1999, that cartoon series premiered, and want to wish a very warm welcome here inside the Pull Bag to the Joker. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Oh, damn. That was sadly anticlimactic.
I don't feel like doing the voice.
This is Steve Megatron. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Tired.
Yeah. And this is going to start the Pull Bag's coverage of the Batman Beyond comics. We are not going to be covering the older comics, the ones that came out in 99. I think there was 99 and 2000 and something else. I'm not looking at any information with it, but when Steve got me into comic reading 3 years ago, I had seen that they had a Batman Beyond Unlimited series from DC Comics. I'm like, ooh, I'd love to read that. And the first part of the run, I was like, okay, because I came into it right when the 13th issue was being released, and right then they were also releasing the first trade. And I'm like, I'll just get the trade. It's so much easier than having to track down all the issues. But yeah, 10,000 Clowns. It's damn good. It's, like I said, the first 13 issues of the series. The back of the trade says the Joker never dies. Gotham City, the future, teenager Terry McGinnis has taken over the mantle of Batman, mentored by Bruce Wayne himself, but the criminals menacing Gotham have only gotten deadlier. Now a new threat is rising, the Jokers, a gang of petty criminals inspired by Batman's greatest foe, are now flooding into Gotham, organized and more deadly than ever before. They are united by a single murderous cause, under a charismatic leader with a terrifying new take on what it means to be a Joker. Unfortunately, insane clown gangs aren't the only problem Terry has to deal with. With the city in chaos, Batman finds himself pulled in different directions. His best friend Maxine Gibson is missing in action. His ex-girlfriend Dana suddenly turns to him for help with her own crisis, all while Bruce Wayne needs him more than ever. His resources spread thin, Batman will have to turn to some familiar and unwelcoming faces for help. Dun dun dun. What was your first reaction or first thoughts when the 2012 Batman Beyond Unlimited series started? Was it on your radar at all?
It was on my radar, and I think I did start picking it up, and then eventually I ran into this issue where everything was costing too much. And I had to start dropping issues, and unfortunately at the time, I think that was one of them. But I think the main reason I dropped it was because of the bundle deal.
The trade, you mean?
Well, I'm saying, like, the fact that I was spending so much per issue, and then wasn't this one bundled at the time, or was that the next one that was bundled with Universe?
Oh, no. This was,
Or was this a straight shot?
No, this was bundled with Justice League.
That's what I thought, because I couldn't stand the Justice League part of it.
Yeah.
So that deterred me from buying the actual issue.
Yeah, and I'll say this, and I understand this is DC's way of doing these two series. I was the same way, where, I understand the title is Batman Beyond Unlimited or whatever it was when it was a regular single issue print title, but it was one of those things where if a thing has Batman Beyond Unlimited and it has a Batman Beyond cover on it, I'm like, okay, well, I want to get to the Batman Beyond story right away as soon as I open the issue. And then some issues it would open up with Justice League, and I know they kind of crossed over a little bit. I probably should go back and read the Justice League run from this, but I at the time I just didn't care. I didn't want to. I just had no inclination to, because even though this is set in the DC animated universe that Bruce Timm and James Tucker and Paul Dini and all of them created, I just didn't give a crap about the Justice League stuff. And that kind of, I think that's kind of where you and I pretty much align when it comes to our DC superhero love, where it's like, if it's Batman, great. We'll especially if it's DCAU Batman, whether it's, you know, Bruce or Terry, we're on board. If it's anything else that doesn't really involve them too much, whatever. But yeah, 10,000 Clowns came out. I was actually hoping, because the way this was originally solicited, it was solicited with issue 13's cover on it, on the trade, and I was really hoping that was what it would have been the case. The issue 13 cover is basically it's Batman Beyond. It's his face, but it's like the Joker drew on him. It's really, really awesome. It's actually in the back of the trade. But it's basically the Batman Beyond mask, and it's kind of like put up against a grid, and it's got like this painted on smile kind of thing, you know. It was done by Dustin Nguyen. I hope I'm saying that right, or Nguyen. I don't know. But the main cover that is actually on the trade is Batman with ha 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 all over the place. I like it. It's interesting. These 13 chapters that are in the trade, the first 13 issues of the series, are broken up into basically 3 stories. Actually, no, 4 stories. You have the 10,000 Clowns Prelude. You have a story called The Trigger Man. A story called Legends of the Dark Knight Jake. And then you have the main body of the story, which is 10,000 Clowns. In the Prelude, it shows basically how the Joker's gangs are coming from all over. When you actually open up the trade itself, it has some beautiful art on the front here, with basically Joker cards that actually depict Batman and this new character that we'll eventually call the Joker King. I love the art. It really, really is very well done. The writing is done by Adam Beechen, who hopefully we'll get an interview here in the Pull Bag with at some point. The art is done by Norm Breyfogle. And the art in this is just amazing. What do you think of the art design for this book?
For one, I really enjoyed the run of how they designed everything, because they kind of kept everything pretty kind of gritty and close to Batman Beyond. Mm-hmm. So that was a nice touch. But they also kind of added some realism to it, so it was kind of a nice touch. And then I liked the, I don't know, I just like the fact that it's almost a straight homage to being the actual series.
Absolutely.
It's like no time has passed, really. I mean, obviously in the storyline it has, but in this aspect, it's a nice continuation to the animated series.
Absolutely. And I love how they do in the physical trade. I love how they do the chapter titles, where it's just him looking up and it's a red background and he's standing on a purple ground, and it just has the title for it. When it opens with the 10,000 Clowns Prelude, I remember looking up the preview for this at the time when the trade originally came out. The first thing I saw was Terry as Batman face palming. You've got to be blipping kidding me. I thought that was hilarious. I mean, Norm Breyfogle, and the colorist, who is Andrew Elder, the two of them on the art is just simply amazing. Like you said, it pretty much brings the whole series to light. I mean, even stuff like Max, and Maxine Gibson doesn't really have a whole lot to do right now. She's doing this thing where it's, if you want to be a part of Undercloud, type this and change this, and then you're in. I'll say the only thing I don't particularly like about this art is how, and I don't like this throughout the entire run actually, is how Bruce looks. I understand time has passed, but like beyond what the series, but he just does not look like the DC animated universe Bruce Wayne. I understand Norm, he has to, put his own spin on things, and every artist should be able to put their own spin on things, but it just, I don't know, he just doesn't look right to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I don't like the stuff, but I kind of like the character staying traditional to some degree.
Right. So as I said, in the prelude here, you have the thing with Max, with Undercloud, you have all the Jokers coming to Gotham. What do you think about the whole aspect of the storyline for the Jokers actually getting, or having someone organize them into one giant gang?
Honestly, I think it's great to some degree, because it's like its own, an actual formal, like, gangster type thing, almost kind of like the Falcone and the, all that kind of stuff. It puts a figurehead on them where they haven't had one for, decades.
40 years. Yeah.
Decades. So, I mean, that's a nice touch that somebody's actually doing it. The only thing is I think the Jokers are more psychotic, separated.
Yeah.
Because there's collateral damage and chaos, whereas this is organized chaos. So it's not as it's more pointed, and it's not as random. So it's I would think a lot easier to take down if you knock the figurehead.
Well, right, and that's kind of the whole point to this whole storyline here, and we'll get into it here in a little bit when we talk about the main body of the story. But in this first issue, the prelude issue, it basically shows us that, number one, Dana has a brother. Never knew that before.
No, that was a nice added continuity twist.
And he will eventually become the Joker King, and when we talk about it a little bit later, his whole thing, his whole character development, his whole character arc is he believes that the Joker didn't even understand his own chaotic mind. He believes that the Joker's message was misinterpreted. And, how he is going through and organizing all these Jokers is, surprise, surprise, through mind control. But, so yeah, I was completely shocked when I first read this, and I got to this final page where it's him putting on the makeup, and then they put in, and I like this because it does fit. It doesn't fit like a glove, but it still fits. They put in two stories, and Beechen's writing is great with these stories, because I mean, when you get to the Triggerman story, it really, really, like, I can hear Henry Rollins in my head saying, "Blow it all up, man." I mean, I can really hear that. The Triggerman story is a Mad Stan story. And it's all about Stan getting his... First of all, making sure everybody knows that he's not dead. Second of all, getting his dog Boom Boom back from the Russians. What did you think of the Mad Stan story?
I don't like Mad Stan, but that's just...
Oh, come on!
He bothers me. I don't like the character.
I like Mad Stan, not just because it was Henry Rollins that voiced him in the series, but the sheer irony that the character even exudes. I mean, he's your typical, anti-government, anti-whatever, unless he gets his way, he's going to blow everything up. I mean, that is very atypical. That is very, one of those things where it happens in movies all the time. It's a reused plot. But, I mean, that's Stan's character. And that, if you put Mad Stan up against, if you put him, along the lines of Ink or Curare or Derek Powers or... who else? If you put him in a lineup with the rest of the Batman Beyond Rogues, he fits a certain element that, is an interesting foil for Bat. The way I see Mad Stan is he's the explosive. Okay, he's the explosive version of Two-Face. I was going to say Clayface, but that's Ink. But he's pretty much the personality type of Clayface, Two-Face, where you have. Or you think at one point you're almost going to get to him, and then nope, here comes this other personality, and bam, you're off and running. I thought the Mad Stan story was fun. I really thought it was very fun. I understand you don't like the character, but I still thought it was pretty cool. And then we get to kind of, I know how much you hate origin stories, but kind of a retelling and kind of a truth-telling to how Terry's dad died in Legends of the Dark Knight, Jake. And apparently in this story, which is pretty much told by Jake himself throughout the whole thing, from his point of view, basically showing you how he has fallen, how he's at the bottom of the city, and that's the whole thing that runs throughout this entire series is everybody at the bottom is poor, everybody at the top of the city is rich, and all this and all that. And so we get this story that he was part of Derek Powers' Quiet Squad. And unlike it shows in the animated series, or doesn't show in the animated series, that supposedly Mr. Fix killed Warren McGinnis, it was actually Jake that killed Terry's dad.
Yeah, I kind of like that twist to it this time around. And I find it funny that wasn't he supposed to be the great grandson of the one that killed the Waynes?
Yeah. Jake, just to spoil it for everybody, because if you haven't read this by now, people, come on, you got to go read this.
Yeah, it's from 2012.
It's Jake Chill. His grand uncle was Joe Chill, who, as we all know, was the guy who killed the Waynes. I love that twist. That, in this future time, you still have someone connected to Batman, connected to the Waynes. I thought that was just great. And I thought that, putting a twist on it and him not wanting to be what his granduncle had become, and this actually will come back, not in this episode, but in a future episode of the Pull Bag. The Jake storyline will come back because Kyle Higgins kind of tapped into it when he did the reboot for 2.0/Universe. Any other thoughts on the Jake story, sir?
No, I think that's it.
All right, so we get into the meat of this, and it is 10,000 Clowns. Once again, Breyfogle and Elder's art is amazing. Absolutely love it. I'll say that the colors, like when you get to the scene where Dana and Terry are at the hospital, Dana and Terry themselves look like they're animated models, but the colors on Terry's jacket is the lighting is a little too bright. I don't have a problem with it. I'm not saying it needs to be directly from the cartoon series. I understand artists need to put their spin on it, but his jacket just looks weird. And I know that's a nitpick. So Max gets kidnapped, and we pretty much don't see her until we get to the second half of the storyline. We see Douglas Tan has become the Joker King. What do you think of that name?
His name?
The Joker King, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of. I don't like. I mean, I like the concept of the character. I'm not so fond of the name.
Right, yeah. So as we go through the 10,000 Clown storyline, basically what happens is Douglas, aka the Joker King, has pretty much strapped bombs to all of his Jokers, all the ones that have come in, strapped bombs to all of them, pumped mind-controlling drugs into them, and they are basically just his puppets, and he's having them go around and making them blow up. They're pretty much suicide bombers, really, if you really want to, boil it down. I mean, the only thing you're missing is a dead terrorist named Ahmed. I'm sorry. And he wants to basically destroy the city, destroy his family, his mother, his father, and his sister. That's pretty much what it is, because apparently his thinking of what the Joker's scheme and plan should have been, the biggest joke of all, is, again, destroying something only so you can build it back up in your own image. Is pretty much what I get out of that.
Yeah, that's kind of the concept.
Yeah. I wish there was more of a fight between him and Batman. I mean, they fight, but they don't fight, as much as I thought they were going to be fighting.
Sadly anticlimactic.
Yeah. Yeah. The, one of the coolest things in this, in this thing is the, when the Bat family has to come in, because they bring in several members and one kind of mysterious non-member. So this takes place after the events of Return of the Joker at this point, as far as I can tell, because obviously Tim Drake is in this, and they reference that, it's after the fact. And I actually, I wrote this down here. I love how we see him, and then we see some sort of futuristic Catwoman. I think that looks cool, and I'll let you talk about that in a minute, but we also see that Dick Grayson is still around. And we get to a scene where Catwoman, Batman, and Grayson are fighting the Jokers, and Batman says on his comlink, "Mr. D, are you in the cave?" And Grayson's like, "Mr. D, you sent him to the cave? You unfeeling son of a..." I know I was supposed to get sad and emotional about that, but I just got a laugh out of it, because it's Dick Grayson with his, charming wit that he always has had, and it was just so amazing to see how certain members of the Bat family have come together. And then it was a complete shock later to see that instead of Bruce sleeping with a Catwoman, it's Dick Grayson sleeping with a Catwoman. Thoughts?
Oh, I'm indifferent on them sleeping with the Catwoman, because obviously they're just. I could go there, but I'm going to stay out of that. But no, it was nice seeing Grayson come back into the full swing of things, and kind of seeing, more or less what happened to some of them.
Absolutely.
The secondary Catwoman thing, I wasn't too fond of the concept of Catwoman Beyond, but it didn't harm things either.
The concept, listeners, is, if you haven't read this, which if you haven't, stop this podcast, go get it and read it. But the concept behind the Catwoman Beyond character is she can multiply herself.
Good for Grayson.
Oh.
Hey, I kept it PG.
I can't. Oh God! Never mind. I can't even say what's going through my mind right now, people.
Grace can have a Catwoman orgy.
Talk about a multiplying dick.
This doesn't have that power.
I know. I like the concept of it, but at first I thought it was a little strange because I didn't get it. I was like, wait, why is this character repeating everything? Then I realized, oh, it's one character, but it's multiple versions of the same character.
Well, I will say I don't understand that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of confused of how she can do that in the first place. I mean, obviously it's the suit, but I just...
Yeah.
I wish there was kind of like a little bit of backstory or explanation to the character and the suit.
Yeah. Yeah, because we don't get much backstory on Catwoman. We basically, she is still a cat burglar. She does still steal things. She doesn't want the city to blow up, because if the city blows up, she can't steal anything. At the same time, she has some sort of sexual relationship with Dick Grayson. So, who knows? As I was reading this before we went to record this, when we get closer to the end of this, when Batman is heading towards the hospital, I really got the Dark Knight feel to it. Just a little bit. Because, I mean, if you look at it, Joker was in the hospital with Dent. Obviously, Batman didn't go there, but I don't know. I just felt like this is very Dark Knight-ish at the end of this, dealing with Batman and the Joker King.
Yeah.
And then as we get to the end of this one, Max is kidnapped, and we come to find out that she's been kidnapped by Undercloud. The Joker King ends up dead. And overall, it was a pretty nice and it is a really interesting ending, because it pretty much ends with, we'll come through this, Dana. We'll be all right. You'll be all right in time.
And she's like, I need a break.
Yeah. Overall, I really love these first 13 issues. I really love the 10,000 Clown storyline. It's a Batman Beyond story that I thought would never be told, especially with, the series not being on anymore. It was very, very interesting. At the back of the 10,000 Clowns trade, we have various alternate covers. We have one with Mad and Batman and Boom Boom. And these are all done by Dustin. We have a Batman, New Adventures Batman holding Terry. That one is really interesting. I already mentioned about the clown face Batman Beyond one. We have a Joker King versus Batman. And we have one where he's falling out the window versus the Joker King. And we also have designs at the back for the Joker King, and who was the other one back here? It's all the Joker King. I love this story. I love this trade. This is one of those things where every now and then I can go back and read this, and it still comes out as good as it was the first time I read it. Final thoughts on 10,000 Clowns, sir?
10,000 thumbs up.
Okay, there you go. So we're going to take a quick break and get to Batgirl Beyond after this.
Surprised to see me? A little. I'm more surprised that I lived so long.
Batman, Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne, Batman. Or have you met?
Not now!
Great. What did they used to call it? Stereo?
Alright, folks, we are back, and it is time to talk about Batman Beyond, Batgirl Beyond. This is the second trade, which actually collects digital issues 19 to 29 is how it's said in the solicitation. It also has the original 2 issues of Batman Beyond 1999, the original series. So that's interesting to go back and see that. I don't know how much we're going to talk about that one, but the art or the staff on this one is Adam Beechen, Adam Archer, Scott Peterson, and Annie Wu. The main cover is a new Batgirl with Batman on TVs behind her, along with Commissioner Gordon. What do you think of the main cover?
I like it.
We open up to some nice interior art before we get to the actual story. I love on this one how they have Barbara on the left-hand side and the new Batgirl on the right-hand side, but it also has Barbara as she was in her younger days as Batgirl. Absolutely love that. This one is also broken up into 4 different stories. We have Legends of the Dark Knight Dana, Undercloud parts 1 to 3 and parts 4 to 6, and then Batgirl Beyond. I'll say this, the Batgirl Beyond story, in the trade form outside of the single issue itself, because I believe at one point or another I had the single issue of this, inside the trade it's a little weird reading it after the end of the series, because the end of this series technically ended with Undercloud Part 6. Because at the end of it, Bruce says to Terry, Gotham will always need a Batman. So for me, reading it in trade, Batgirl Beyond was a little strange, but I still enjoy the story. I don't know. So we start with Legends of the Dark Knight Dana. Basically picks up after the end of the last trade. We see that the aftermath of Joker Night is still devastating Gotham and its citizens. We get to a point in the story where it's from Dana's point of view, which I thought that was interesting. That with the aftermath, you open this up with internal monologue with Dana, and I think this is probably the most characterization we've ever gotten from Dana. Because it's just one of those things where in the series she's never really around. I mean, sure, we had the little scene in epilogue where she, is in bed half the time. But I mean, really, in this series, starting with the last trade and going into this is the most characterization Dana Tan has ever had. What do you think of having the story at this point be from her point of view?
It gives her more resonance in the story, but it's not one of those characters I really care to see the point of view from, because I like Batman and not necessarily the Dana Tan character. But it is nice to see her get fleshed out for once, instead of just being there as like a character that just kind of is a throwaway. Because, I mean, that's pretty much all she's been to this point.
Kind of, yeah. It's kind of nice seeing Mrs. McGinnis and his brother Matt as well in this. We get to a point in this issue where she wants to go see Bruce Wayne. And guess what, folks? She knows the secret, and they don't deny it. Which I thought was interesting, that they didn't deny it. And I thought it was a good character development thing for Batman specifically. Both of them. So, I mean, this whole series could have really probably ended right there at the end of at the end of issue 14. I'm glad it didn't, but it's one of those things where, the whole, oh, I love you too, it could have ended right there, but, during this whole first issue and going into the second part of this, once we get into Undercloud, we find out that Max, actually finally gets a chance in issue 14 here in the first part of the trade, gets the chance to send Terry a signal. And how she sends him the signal is just ingenious. She creates a blackout in the suburbs of Gotham. And she creates a blackout so powerful that it even blacks out the Batcave. And Terry's like, whoa, what the... I thought that was hilarious. I thought that was great. So we get into the Undercloud story, and this is really where I kind of fell off the map. I've tried reading this story several times before recording this this episode. I read through it, to make sure I knew everything, before we recorded, but Undercloud just seems weird and strange, and I don't know. They basically use Shriek as a lackey. The person behind Undercloud is just some girl who, some poor girl who wants everything in Gotham to be the same, or to be equal, which is all well and good. I understand that. I'm not rich by any means at all, so I mean, I understand, coming from hard times, but the fact that she wants to destroy the entire city and to build it back up, once again, same storyline. I kind of wish Undercloud was something a little bit different than what 10,000 Clowns was. Thoughts?
Sure.
I mean, I like the inclusion of what the Metal Men are, and I like their introduction.
My only reference to the Metal Men is in Batman the Brave and the Bold.
Yeah.
And I think it's the episode where he goes to Planet X, where he meets the Batman of Zur-En-Arrh with Kevin Conroy. That's the only reason I know of those characters.
Yeah, see, I wish they would have, they mention, the guy who built them in this, but they don't really connect it to anything. They don't, the whole point of Batman Beyond Unlimited was that it was somewhat a continuation of the DC Animated Universe version of Batman Beyond. And I wish it would have been tied back to somebody, that we had seen in one of the cartoon series. So eventually, Batman comes in, saves the day. Max is rescued. And, they want to... At the end of this, they basically want to use Undercloud as the technology, on the side of good. I gotta say, as much as I like Adam Beechen and his writing... And as good as this writing is in this, it's not as good as what we had in the Dana issue or 10,000 Clowns. I just wish Undercloud was something completely different than what it actually was. Any other final thoughts on Undercloud, sir?
No.
Okay. We get to the Batgirl Beyond part, and a new Batgirl is on the rise in these slums. But how will Police Commissioner Barbara Gordon feel about that? We opened this issue, and I remember getting this and reading this, the actual print issue. And I'm like, oh, old Barbara is just kicking ass, and you can see in her narration that she's just... Her kicking ass is actually kicking her ass, because obviously she's an old lady at this point. I mean, she's not as young as she used to be and everything else. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, this new Batgirl comes in, and they amazingly have some interesting personality similarities. And the new Batgirl is pretty much, showing her, hey, look, cops don't come down here. You guys take care of all the rich people, but you're not taking care of the entire city.
I give the punchlines around here. Got it?
What do you think of the interaction between Commissioner Barbara Gordon and the new Batgirl?
It's quite interesting, the fact that they're working side by side.
Yeah.
And it's funny seeing her get her ass kicked, even though because she's old. It almost kind of reminds me of like the young Barbara, even though like in where old Barbara is at, and then the like a Stephanie Brown or one of the other kind of Batgirls.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they're more, I don't know, more raw. It seems like.
Absolutely. I love the colors on this issue, this story, because they're so light and bright. It's almost like it doesn't fit into Neo Gotham, but since this is a completely different area than what we're used to being at with Terry as Batman, I actually think it works here for these characters. And it is just so interesting. And we even get a flashback because she's, reminiscing, and we actually get to see Barbara as, young Batgirl in the Batgirl suit, basically kick Bane right in the face. That's awesome. That's just so awesome.
Kick that venom bastard.
That's right.
As she gets face palmed.
Yeah, pretty much. What do you think of the overall, the color change? And because this isn't Terry,
it's quite bright. And then seeing a bat during the day,
yeah,
that's unheard of.
Yeah.
Don't you know bats come out at night? Well, I'm the light bat. I'm gray.
Oh, good Lord. So we get basically another team up with them, and because they're fighting all this crime in the slums of Gotham. The area of Gotham that this is called Crown Point, and this to me is pretty much. I feel like it's another version of Cherry Hill. Cherry Hill was the area of Gotham that Barbara had lived in when she was younger in the New 52 days, when Gail Simone was writing the character before. Brendan Fletcher and Cameron Stewart and Babs Tarr took her out of Central Gotham and put her out in Burnside. That's really what I feel like Crown Point is. It's another version of Cherry Hill. And you're right, seeing a Bat character during the day is really, really strange. But again, I love the colors, love the background, love the art.
And she has a cape.
Yeah, she has a cape.
Terry, why you no have cape?
Terry has bat wings. He's okay. Terry is his
He's
own
got armpit
Batwing.
flaps.
Oh, jeez.
He's got bat flaps.
Oh my god! He's technically his own Batwing because he has rocket boots and bat wings under his arms and whatever else. And I mean, I like that she has her own cape. I like the design of the new Batgirl here. I just wish that more would have been done with her, because at the end of this, we figure out who she is. Well, Barbara figures out who she is, and because Barbara's like, "Look, if you cross the line, I'm not helping you. I'm not saving you. I'm not, you know what I mean. You'll go down." And at the end of this, it says "the end?" Question mark? Question mark? Question mark? I really wish more would have been done with this character, even if it was just one of those passing pages in one of the comics that we'll cover later later this year in Batman month when we get to Kyle Higgins' run. Don't get me wrong, Kyle does an amazing job with the characters and the story he wanted to tell, but it's just one of those things where I just wish they wouldn't have dropped this new character. Just introduce her in one issue and then wham bam, thank you ma'am, no more.
No, but we get somebody like Harper Row.
Oh, don't remind me.
Or Damian Wayne.
Oh, stop. Worst characters ever. Harper's not as bad, but Damian.
I don't like either one. They should have just kept this chick on.
Yeah, sure. Well, this is the DC animated universe versus the new 52.
So they already made Terry a part of the regular 52.
Oh, good. That's a whole other other thing for another time. But as I said at the beginning of this podcast, this also actually includes issues 1 and 2 from the 1999 Batman Beyond run, I should say. It's basically a...
I have that issue.
You have this, do you?
Yeah.
I like the art in this. It's very show accurate to the show. As far as how Bruce looks, as far as how the suits look. Yeah, pretty much everything. I mean, because this was published when the series was going on. Actually, hell, this is written by one of the DCAU series writers, Hilary J. Bader. So, that is pretty friggin' awesome.
See, that's why they should have made another couple seasons.
I know.
More stories, more.
I know.
It's funny seeing old Bruce in the cape and cowl, and he's just panting.
Yes. Yeah, it is.
He's got the oxygen mask on.
The oxygen mask, yeah, it's so crazy. And the colors in this are just nuts. I mean, this doesn't even feel like the Neo Gotham that we know. I do like how they kept the cave colors. The purple and black everywhere. I thought that was great, since that's what happened in the show. But this first chapter is basically a Spellbinder story. I've never been a fan of Spellbinder.
I'm not, but I love this one only because you see Bruce in the cape and cowl again.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, no, that's...
Batsuit. That's like the sheer lone reason alone why I like this episode. Or this issue.
Yeah. And then the second issue here is an ink issue. And... I don't know. It's alright.
It's kind of an ink stink, but it's...
yeah.
It's still Batman Beyond.
Yeah.
In animation.
True.
So...
I wish they would have done something with this, kind of to continue on from that episode Inkling, where we're not sure if Ink is gone or not, but her daughter is still left to be, scared as all hell. I wish they kind of would have done that here to kind of continue on with that storyline with Ink's daughter, but whatever.
Just ate
her. Creepy. Overall, I absolutely love the Dana Tan storyline that's in this. Undercloud got better when it ended. The Batgirl Beyond story I thought was great. I wish there was more of that. Overall, this entire series, the 2012 series, has been great. It really, really has. Absolutely love 10,000 Clowns. Like I said earlier, it's a story I can go back to and read often. Final thoughts, sir?
I really like 10,000 Clowns. The Batgirl Beyond I liked. Some of the other stories not so much. But overall, I'd say you can't go wrong with Batman Beyond in general. It's
right.
For one, it's probably got the most solid continuity out of any of the DC Comics series.
Right.
Meaning that there's no spillover from other issues of different comics or different lines or craptastic characters or convoluted story plots from the New 52. Or, I mean, I know this is kind of just after New 52 started, but.
Right.
Still, I like the fact that it beats to its own drum and it's not mixed in there and convoluted and screwed up. So,
absolutely. So the next time we're going to be talking about Batman Beyond will be in this year's Batman month in May. We're going to be talking about the Rewired trade paperback, which is the first 2 storylines from Kyle Higgins' run. Absolutely amazing. So we'll be back for that. Over the next couple of weeks, I'm trying to think what's going on in the pull bag. I actually have no clue. I am just so frazzled, ladies and gentlemen. But, okay, coming up in the pull bag for February, we've got For week 4, we've got the Transformers: Robots in Disguise and More Than Meets the Eye, issue 29 with Nicole Hailstorm and I. And then also that week, we're going to be releasing the Pull Bag, episode 100, Best of the Pull Bag. So it's essentially going to be a clip show, folks. It's not going to be a clip show in the sense of what ATTF episode 49 was, where it was like, all things Transformers, this is your life, because the Pull Bag will be continuing on past episode 100. But I'm just going to kind of remind people of some of the past content and conversations we've had. Because in 3 years, reaching 100 episodes, plus 25, basically at this point, if my math is right, once we hit this, we'll be at almost 130 episodes of the podcast because of the back issue classics, and not to mention the origins and the interview. So it's probably more. It's probably close to 150 episodes. But as far as the overall numbered episodes, episode 100, it's going to be interesting. If anyone would like to call in or send email feedback for the Pull Bag for episode 100, which airs the last Wednesday in February, you can send an email to me directly, tfg1mike@gmail.com, or you can send it to feedback@geekcastradio.com. The voicemail line is 502-526-5821. Be sure to leave some sort of name, screen name, real name, whatever. And there's about a 5 to 10 minute time limit, so yeah, don't talk too long. Again, email is tfg1mike@gmail.com or feedback@geekcastradio.com. Voicemail line 502-526-5821. Did you have fun traveling 65 years into the future, Steve?
Let me go back! Let me go back! As they say in Star Trek Generations.
Good Lord. All right. That's going to do it for us, folks. Make your great escape into comics, and we will catch you next time.
It's true, Batsy. I know everything. And kinda like the kid who peeks at his Christmas presents, I must admit, it's sadly anticlimactic.
You've just heard the latest episode of the Pull Bag, the GCRN's comic review and discussion podcast. There are several ways to get in touch with us and leave feedback for the show. You can visit the website, geekcastradio.com, where you can comment on the episode and all of our different podcasts. You can rate our show on iTunes. Be sure to leave us feedback. Call the voicemail line, 502-526-5821. Please remember to tell us the show you are leaving the message for, and your name. Become a fan of us on Facebook by searching Geekcast Radio Network. Send us an email feedback at geekcastradio.com. Follow us on Twitter at geekcastradio. So until next time, make your great escape into comics and unleash the geek in you.